1. If you worked in a law firm before the 2010s, you can skip the next 3 paragraphs. Or don't if your blood needs a little reminiscence boiling. For the rest of you, let me explain paper. If you've not worked there, you might think of law firms as floating in money from the ridiculous fees they charge for the most minor of tasks like a 2-second phone call, and that they probably waste half of it. You're right. When it comes to printing, law firms are nuts. They still are, but before the early 2010s, they were on an even higher level. I stood still in a spot in a law firm's office in 2002-ish, and could reach out and touch 4 HP 4000 printers, all with 2 additional trays and the manual feed-in tray use. 5 types of stationery, and from that same spot there was a big floor-standing HP 8000 just 6 feet away. That was for the big prints, and it just had reams, literally, of plain paper in it. The reason for all this? Nothing and everything. Law firms have to print the first page of the client copy on headed paper, all subsequent pages of continuation paper, which is likely headed, but usually a smaller logo and address block, pushed up to a thin header of the page. File copies are on plain white paper with a file copy watermark printed diagonally over it, or in the header or somewhere else, and the plain paper might be the same plain for normal printing, or the lawyers might have argued they want heavier stock as they're dealing with it every day and they're the ones that bring in the damn money. Or maybe it's green paper because reasons. Then you'll have a different watermark for a copy in the situation where the original was lost, on plain paper or headed and continuation or blue, why the hell not? Then there's faxes, yes, in 2010, yes. But not now, right? Wrong, still faxes. Compliment slips, and a bunch of other ways of printing that I've therapeutically removed from my memory. How can this ever work, I hear you scream? In short, really, really complicated printing code, often word macros, massive print dialogues, and an array of print-like-this buttons. If you've ever wondered why IT is making a big deal about the amazing deal you can get on competitor corp printers, and why they're so attached to their printer brand, ta-da! With all of these requirements on printing, there's inevitable waste. People load the wrong tray or print to the wrong tray. Then there's a lot of thrown-away paper, and therefore there's a market for saving printing costs. Enter MyCorp with our amazing software to make printing more accurate, saving time and frustration, I jest. But it really was good. The saving had to be played down to make it believable. As you can imagine, every firm is different, so we'd have to have a couple of hours at the client with questions and calculators to work out how much we thought the product would cost and save. We did so for one company who had the most ridiculous printing requirement I ever saw. They needed 2 copies of a file copy, one for the partner's files and one for the account file. The partner's one was to be printed on plain white paper, the account's file was to be printed on green paper. To solve this, they had botched together some code to print page 1 twice, page 2 twice, page 3 twice, etc. to a specific tray. That tray, ladies and gentlemen, was filled with interleafed white and green paper, which they bought in reams already interleafed at least double the price of the white and green paper, when if they'd been separate. What's even better is that every now and then, someone would accidentally print an email to that tray. 3 pages in the bin. And now the top page is green. So when someone prints their document, the green one is on top, so they throw that away. I could never understand that. They separate them manually afterwards because they hate their staff, I guess, so what does it matter? To get around this problem after an incorrect print, they'd open the tray and bin another sheet so the top was white again. So we went over it all and we calculated that our £50,000 software would save them $330,000 every year. And $300,000 of that was the cost and waste cost associated with this green paper. Bristling with pride and thinking about the wonderful case study this could make for our product, we presented it to them, and it got rejected. I'm sorry, what? They said no. We could not understand it at all. We suggested a watermark instead of the green paper, and this was a point they raised. Sure that we could still make enormous savings and bag ourselves a client, we redid the numbers with a tray of regular green paper. It's ridiculous. But if they have to have green paper, it will still save a ton of money getting reams of just green paper. The savings were put down about $180,000. This is annual savings for a one-off cost, with a small annual fee. They still said no. A few months later, after another site visit, and most definitely in the pub, my boss was told that one of the partner's sons happens to run a printing company that, wouldn't you know it, supplies the firm's paper. 2. I provide on-demand, all-inclusive IT and tech support for a few local companies. This ranges from network support and troubleshooting. Basic back-end web dev, I outsource most, appliance troubleshooting and repair. Computer and motherboard repair, basically all-inclusive. I was an EE designing and manufacturing prototype PCBs before moving to computers. I also repair motherboards and phone boards, hard drives and flash drives, appliances, car electronics, radios, etc. for individuals who happen to find me on Google. I work from my house. I got a call from a customer who complained that his 16-month-old HP Envy kept blue screening over and over, and had a fan error and ran very slow. So when you power on the computer, you get a fan error? Yes, it says fan error. The system has detected that the fan is not functional. Operating the computer can cause potential damage to your computer. Are you sure you want to continue? And then it says press F1 to continue. Oh, so that's an easy fix. Fans for that computer are about $20, and I charge another $35 on top of it for the install. Bring it by, and first I will make sure that is actually the issue, and then I will order it tonight. Oh, I really needed to use it. It has another problem. It keeps blue screening over and over, and if it blue screens and I reboot, it instantly blue screens again. Want me to show you the error? No, you should not be powering on your computer. You can actually break it that way. The warning is telling you that the cooling fan isn't working because if it overheats it will break, and nobody will be able to fix it. Note, I worded it this way to simplify so he would understand. But it was working before. I will check to see if it has been damaged by overheating. Next time, don't ignore messages like that. Well, I was doing that for a few weeks, and it was working fine before, but now it won't even boot up. It just says it's booting forever and never finishes. Well, first I will have to fix the fan in order to properly diagnose it after. That will be $55 for the fan, and let's see what else it needs from there. What was happening is that after 5 minutes of thermal throttling, it would eventually crash and reboot. Without giving time to cool off, he would try and use it again immediately, rinse and repeat. But we're just getting to the fun part. After the fan arrived, and I repasted it, installed the fan, and tightened some very loose hinges, booted, Windows would not load from the drive properly. Most of you know what this means. The Windows install may be corrupt, or the drive is damaged. So I put all of the files on the NVMe drive using an enclosure bridge, and it takes forever. I mean 1 kilobyte per second and 100% active time. Checked the drive and it had tons of CRC errors, at least 70 counts of overtamp threshold. And it had thousands of reallocated sectors, aka the drive was fucking fried to death. It took me 40 hours to even image the drive, and another 10 hours to test disk operation, to then extract files from the drive. Most of them anyway, along with a partial directory tree. Hello, I figured out why Windows did not boot even though it booted before. Your SSD is damaged due to severe overheating. You can replace them for about $75, and I would then charge another $35 to install it, and install Windows and copy your user files back. I have a drive here in stock. It's an SK Hynix Gold P31. It performs roughly the same as the Intel H10 that's in your computer, but is much cheaper, and not prone to overheating like the Intel one. I also have an Adata drive which I could use, and it would only cost $30, and it's slightly used. Used? Can you just get another Intel one? I want to use a good quality drive. Mine was an SSD. Can you make sure it's an SSD? The SK Hynix is a well-known brand, the performance is about as good, and the reliability is better in most tests. And the NVMe-compatible drive is going to be an SSD. They do not make NVMe hard drives. They're not small enough. I have not heard of SK Hynix. Are you sure they're good? What is the warranty? They make the SSDs found in many smartphones, and they supply SSDs to Acer, HP, Lenovo, and other companies. You've probably never heard of them because they do not sell in stores. but mostly to other companies in bulk. I have one on my own laptop too, for what it's worth. This Intel H10 drive that was in it is a QLC flash, so they also wear out faster than the SK Hynix TLC. QLC means that each little cell that holds data has to hold a little more data. So every time you write a file, it has to do extra wear. I know, this is very, very dumbed down, but it is about how it went because this customer wanted an answer he couldn't understand. But QLC is cheaper than TLC, except Intel. The 512GB Intel drive is $140, while the SK Hynix is $75. If you would like me to order an exact replacement, I can order one now, and it will be here in 3 days. Or I can charge you $75 and give you the SK Hynix now, as that's what I keep stocked. That's expensive. Can you not get it cheaper? I know Intel drives are overpriced, in my opinion, and not very good quality, but it's your decision, if you want to. If I put another Intel drive in it, I will probably remove the metal cover over the drive because it traps the heat in and does not let the fan recirculate the air in there. Okay, bro, fine, I trust you, but if it breaks, I will blame you. I don't like customers like this who blame you for everything that happens after, but it's part of the job. Don't worry, they have a 5-year warranty. The same as most drives like this. Alrighty, so the total here is going to be $75 for the drive, $21 for the fan, $35 for the fan replacement, and $35 for the hard drive replacement and Windows installation and file transfer. That makes your total $166 for everything. It will be ready tonight in a few hours, or you can pick it up tomorrow. Oh, come on, man, the computer is only a year old. Can't you give me a break? I came to you without any referral or anything. I'm sorry, my prices are as low as they can be, and I really didn't charge you for data recovery, as I hadn't even mentioned the possibility. So I already gave you a discount. Any other shop would have charged you at least $200 just to swap your hard drive and install Windows alone, even without the fan. So I think my prices are more than fair. Okay, fine bro, thanks. This customer's laptop was dinged up. A huge dent in the back, warped screen. Looked like it was sat on. Why do all the worst customers also abuse the shit out of their computers? 3. I have been working for nearly 3 years at a call center, providing IT support. So I was still quite fairly new, but I learned quick. During the beginning, we go over a lot of training over some of the software we use, major and minor troubleshooting, resolves, call taking, how to, etc., etc. During a week of training for remote user support, I was with someone who taught me a golden rule: never trust your client or caller, ever. This has always been on my mind to make sure I always understand the full story, and asking correct questions before diving in. But sometimes I give in and trust the caller to shave a few minutes off a call, or sometimes simply because it makes sense to. Never again. Normal day, normal calls. One call comes in. It was transferred from one of my colleagues who was training someone. Lady tells me the following even before being introduced after being transferred. I cannot type at all and it's not working. My system is frozen and my monitor is not responding. Here we go. What the hell is she even talking about? Hi, ma'am. I'll be taking over the call moving forward. What exactly do you mean you cannot type? It's just not working. I type and it's not working. The previous guy told me to unplug my monitor and reboot test it. It didn't work. Plug the monitor back in and it's still just not working. What the hell kind of troubleshooting is that? What wasn't I told from the previous agent? Oh my god, this is going to be a long one. Can you click on that? No, I can't even click! First of all, she was using a laptop that was connected to the monitor. Normal stuff. They just couldn't do anything. We unplugged the monitor and had them use the laptop as normal. I told them to just log into the system with the laptop, keyboard and mouse. It worked. We got in, got them connected, and I remoted on to see what the hell they were doing with this monitor shenanigans. Immediately I get a key test running. They test out their external keyboard and no keys are registering. Device Manager showed no external mouse or keyboard connected. Nothing in Windows settings, devices either. We plugged the monitor back in to see what all of the monitor shenanigans was about, because she was telling me how it had something to do with the monitor because of the last agent that was helping them. I found out they had their keyboard and mouse connected to the actual monitor running as kind of like a docking station. Magically, the keyboard and mouse shows up in Windows settings. Devices as a combo. One USB for both devices. Shenanigans, if you ask me. Key test again. Keyboard doesn't work. Mouse is working now. Had them unplug the USB from their monitor, which took a while because they couldn't find it, and had them plug in directly to their laptop. Mouse worked, but not keyboard. What the hell? I decided, well, maybe it's something with the drivers, or the keyboard is dead. Does the keyboard usually emit any light at all? No. By chance, does your keyboard run off batteries? Yeah, it has batteries, but changing them didn't fix it. Is everything else in correctly? Yes. Could we swap out the batteries again, maybe? Maybe we got one with no juice left in it. A few minutes go by. It's still not working, only the mouse works. Okay, I guess I can't get much more information from that. I have to kind of trust them on this one. I don't even bother asking them for a model because they really sound like they wouldn't know. I was really over the day and wanted to get this call over with. Fix it. Move on. I started looking at drivers, uninstall, reboot, reinstall, same issue. Took a further look to see if, for whatever reason, the keyboard had internal storage. Maybe for whatever reason it was being blocked by our system policies, whatever. We're pretty deep into this call, given it takes a lot of time for them to reboot, test things, the occasional BRB, or hold on real quick, and even the "No, I don't know." That makes our lives a bit harder. What could it even be? I was honestly just about to tell them they were shit out of luck here, let's get you a new keyboard. Lady was fiddling around for a while in the middle of looking at everything, and me being completely stumped and about to send them documents for a keyboard replacement. Oh, you know what? The nub of the battery is supposed to be on the spring, right? The nub, by the way. No! Is this no. No, definitely not. It's supposed to be the other way around. Keyboard now works like a charm. Sometimes we overlook the simple things because we put too much trust into our client. 4. I work as support for a company that offers multiple computing services. One of them allows you to host websites at low cost. It also offers clients to interact other services via code. Works with Python, PHP, Java, etc. I received a ticket back in 2019 where a customer wanted to include search by voice for their website. Quick overview of their flow. 1. A user clicks on the microphone icon on the website and says what they are looking for. 2. A request to our services was made via code using the auto input. 3. Our services selected keywords that matched the best with the customer's catalog. 4. The website would return all the resultant items. To make sure this feature was available for all users, they wanted to call our services directly from the front-end user interface and explicitly included, "We want to bypass any back-end authentication. Everything should be on the front end." I found a solution which included JSON tokens, and they showed happy. Everything cool so far. The ticket was closed and I didn't hear of them for a while. Until last week, in May 2021. We received a ticket from the same customer. They were very worried because they ran a security audit and found some risky implementations. I jumped to a video call with them and asked them to share their screen with me. Their words during the call. If you click on Inspect Website, you can see the URLs and private keys. Can you confirm the risk? In the company I work, URLs to our services include customers' IDs and are considered as sensitive identifiable information. Yes, I confirmed that there was sensitive information publicly available, and mentioned that these kinds of implementation are always risky. If some idle one gets their keys and URLs, they could exploit them, causing undesired changes to their bank account. They were looking for an option to hide this information from their HTML and JS files. I left them waiting and did a quick search. My efforts were useless, couldn't find a single thing to achieve what they wanted to do. After some minutes I told them, "Thanks for waiting. It seems that your requirements cannot be done the way you would like, but I can think of the following. Make sure to restrict those keys to only the services they are meant to be used. This could make sure that even when someone exploits the credentials, the costs won't suddenly spike for all services." create a bank alert within our service. If the system detects changes above a given threshold, you will receive an email and can take immediate action. Please consider moving these calls to the back end. I'm sending you our docs where this implementation can be done. They said that this could take several iterations as they have just deployed to production, but I reinforced that during the rework, the first 2 steps could help them the best to keep control in their bank charges. They agreed with the workarounds and started to plan their next deployment. The call ended after that. The ticket has been closed for now, and I hope I don't have to worry about any possible problem with their future back-end implementations during 2023. 5. A few years ago, I was working as a casework supervisor and desktop support tech on a major disaster. We're talking one of the biggest disasters to ever hit this area, and in the top for the country. One town had over 30 inches of rain, and much of the area is at or below sea level, so it sat there for weeks. And people were in emergency shelters for months. I was there at the start, but got called away for a different disaster a couple weeks in. Ended up closing out 2 smaller operations, and then came back a few months later, about 4 months after the flooding. This happened during my second time there. For some reason, the organization I was there for decided that partway through they'd try their new model of having caseworkers work virtually, rather than meeting clients in person. This was intended to save money, as we could have caseworkers work from home, rather than flying a few dozen people to the disaster location and putting them in hotels and giving them rental cars for months. But as this was the first rollout, they had everyone working at a central office, so we could iron out the kinks as they came along. And there were a lot of them every day. Also, because of some irregularities from previous caseworkers that meant we wouldn't pass audit, we had to rework every case so they'd pass muster, something like 25,000 cases. I had a fairly solid understanding of how our systems worked and computers in general, and I had just left a job as a desktop support tech at a major library, so I became the point person for any tech issues that didn't require needing new hardware or modifying the systems, mainly helping users that had little to no knowledge about some of the programs we were using figure out how to do what they needed to do. As it always goes, some of the people deploying caseworkers didn't get the memo about how the site worked and all the qualifications needed to come work with us. This mainly led to them sending us people that generally knew how to use computers, but were far from experts at our systems. Not a big issue. They were great at learning how to do everything and stuck around for months, so we weren't having to train new people every few weeks like we were doing when this project started. The exception to this was Carol. Carol was a wonderful old lady. I hadn't worked with her before, but heard she was a wonderful caseworker and did great with clients. She would work cases thoroughly, get laid out, and close the case quickly. The only issue was that Carol always did the work on paper and handed it off to her supervisor to be entered into the database. This wasn't normally a problem when she worked at her local office, as there was only a few cases a month, so the supervisor had plenty of time to get everything done. But we were working entirely virtually, with almost no face-to-face contact, and had far too many cases to have another person sit with her and enter everything. I was put in charge of training Carol. I met with her early in the morning, gave her her credential, training manual and phone, and showed her to her workspace. I had some very urgent work that was going to take about 30 minutes, so I told her to log in and read a few pages of the training manual, and I'd be right back. I got my tasks done and make a cup of coffee and headed back to get started with Carol, and find her sitting at her workstation with the computer off. Were you able to get through those pages in the training binder and sign in? I read the pages, but the computer isn't turned on. My brain immediately just went to the week prior. We had some power issues, but everything seemed to be working fine over the past few days. I really hope it's not happening again, as it was going to take us 3 to 4 days to make up the work, and it largely fell on the supervisors and managers, who were already working 12 to 16-hour days 6 days a week. I had been getting about 4 hours of sleep every day for 3 or 4 weeks at this point, so my brain immediately went to the worst before even beginning to find the problem. I jump into troubleshoot mode and press the power button to see what happens, and it boots right up, no problems at all. How did you do that? I just pressed the power button.
Oh, I just thought it'd be on already. I didn't know I needed to do that.
Alright, this is going to be a fun training session. Okay, go ahead and log in.
How do I do that?
Just use the mouse and click into the top box and put in your username, and then put your password in the bottom box.
My what name? Is it just Carol Hickens?
Your username. It's the first line in the paper I gave you.
My what name?
Just type what's on the top line into the box top, and then put what's on the second line into the second box.
Oh, okay. How do I do that?
Use the mouse to click. Carol quickly jumped up and screamed while simultaneously flinging the training binder directly at my genitals.
There's a mouse where? I don't see it.
Everyone on the floor's attention immediately came to the screaming woman, except a couple of people nearby that started looking for the mouse. Carol was transferred to a different department a few hours later, where she didn't have to use a computer, and I hear she did great work. I worked with her supervisor a couple of weeks later and found out that in her 82 years of life, she had never used a computer. Shocking, I know. Who would have guessed? Definitely not as shocking as finding out she was 82, though. She looked like she was in her 60s. The mouse was never found. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Terrific Tales of Technology, number 10. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And to give a little shout out to the author of story number 3, Reddit user Perkless. I will also be linking their Twitch in the description. If I don't, throw grumpy squirrels at me or something to remind me. And if you have any spare squirrels left over, then please do point one of them at the like button, and perhaps they'll boop it on their way to work mischief. Also, please do leave a comment if you're in the mood to do so, and hit that subscribe button like it offended your mother. Unless you don't like your mother, in which case, someone you do like. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.